Hi there, welcome to What's Happening in Brazil. 3 new strains of the coronavirus have been identified in Brazil over the last few months. According to specialists, they may be behind the rise in the number of cases and the overloading of hospitals.
Higher transmission rates that lead to more severe infections and affect young people and even children. These are some of the characteristics of the new strains of the coronavirus detected in Brazil. The most recent one is called N9 and was first identified in mid-March by the Fiocruz Institute, one of the country's main scientific research institutions. Another 2 variants called P1 and P2 were detected in the last 5 months. Though there is no proof that these strains are more lethal, it is known that they spread faster and cause infections that are more intense, which accelerates the number of hospital admissions and the collapse of the country's healthcare system. Currently, every state has their ICU wards at critical levels.
Its transmission rate is up to 8 times higher than the original strains. It has caused graver illnesses, mainly among young people, who were previously less compromised. This also overloads the health system, because the youth are more resistant, thus spend more time in the ICU.
Another worrisome effect of these variants are graver infections among patients admitted for acute respiratory syndrome. After these mutations occurred, the number of deaths grew by 71%.
We have instances of viral encephalitis, something that didn't happen before, cardiac problems associated with COVID. We are seeing patients with more bacterial complications. Thus, the current scenario is extremely concerning.
However, vaccination in Brazil is moving slowly. Just over 5% of the population has received the first dose. Due to this, there is a risk that new, even deadlier strains will emerge. Experts warn that it's necessary to continue to abide by safety measures in order to stem the spread of the virus.
It's important to remember that whether it's a variant or the original strain, they come accompanied by droplets of saliva. If you wear a mask, the droplets won't get through. It's necessary to be careful, because this is a disease that came with force. If we are not careful, by August we'll have more than 500,000 dead in Brazil.
In March of 2021, Brazilian playwright Augusto Boal would have turned 90 if he was still alive. Always hand in hand with the working class and social movements, he was an important figure inside the country's cultural resistance movement.
A life dedicated to uniting the working class and the theatrical universe. This is the legacy left behind by Augusto Boal, a playwright who would have turned 90 on March 16.
I think he revolutionized several things within Brazilian and even world theater. He was also a revolutionary, not just inside theater, but beyond it as well.
Born in the suburbs of Rio de Janeiro, Boal studied chemical engineering at Columbia University. There, he also took drama classes and was introduced to the vanguard of social theater, at the time promoted by John Gassner, Tennessee Williams, and Arthur Miller. With these ideas in mind, he returned to Brazil in 1956 when he became a member of the Arena Theater and helped promote an extensive theatrical investigation of the country's state of affairs.
The Arena Theater allowed for a national dramaturgy to be contemplated and what this would entail.
With the 1964 coup d'etat, Boal's work served as an important catalyst for the forces that opposed the military regime. An example of this was his Show de Opinião, which translates to opinion show, which became a symbol of cultural resistance at the time. With the harshening of government repression, Boal left the country and, while abroad, developed the techniques used in the theater of the oppressed. In this type of enactment, the barrier between actors and spectators is broken, promoting an exchange of experiences.
Papa, mais avec la CFDT, c'est réduction du temps de travail, les garagistes travaillent plus le samedi maintenant.
O teatro oprimido nasceu no Brasil. E nasceu no Brasil e se desenvolveu na Argentina, no Peru, no México, Colômbia e outros países, mas sempre como uma resposta a uma situação social e política concreta. Quer dizer, o teatro do oprimido não foi inventado. Quer dizer, o teatro do oprimido não saiu da minha cabeça, mas saiu do oprimido.
To this day, the practice continues to mobilize new groups. One of these is called Ibirá, Theater of Oppressed Women, which relates Boal's techniques to a feminist perspective.
Stories are always told by the same people. men, whites, cisgender persons, and heterosexuals. Within the battle for plurality of the things we would like to share about this huge and diverse country, the theater of the oppressed makes us hear other voices.
Boal died on May 2nd of 2009 in the city of Rio de Janeiro at the age of 78. He received various awards throughout his life and was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2008 for his work with the theater of the oppressed.
And now it's time for Brazilianism.
Today's recipe comes all the way from the state of Goiás. It's the very traditional rice cake. Some important tips for baking any kind of cake at home. First, when you start making the cake, turn the oven on right away. It has to be really hot. If you put a cake into a cold oven, it won't come out right. Second tip, run all the dry ingredients through a strainer, except for the grated cheese. I'm gonna start things off with the eggs and the sugar. I'll mix them together till it gets creamy. Then I'll add the oil. Now I'll add the rice flour, which has already been strained. Now I'll add the grated cheese, a pinch of salt. It will turn into cake dough. Now let's move on to the milk. I like to mix the baking soda with a little bit of milk, so I'm going to leave some aside and put the rest into the dough. The dough is ready, so it's time for the baking soda. Here's the rest of the milk I've put aside. The baking soda, I'm gonna mix everything. I'm gonna mix it delicately so as not to break these little bubbles. I grease the baking pans and pepper them with rice flour. Let's do it. Put the dough into each of the baking pans. More or less 2 spoons of dough in each one. I'm gonna put it in the oven. 10 minutes on high heat for the cakes to come up. Then I'm going to lower the oven's temperature and leave it in for another 5 minutes so it bakes in the middle.
Liked the show? So hit the like button and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to receive notifications. We'll see you next week.